All right, you guys are super zoomed in, and the first thing is I want to talk to you guys about what you're going to need. You definitely want to use a primer because that's going to help with the blendability of your shadows. It's going to help maintain the wear of it so that it's not creasing or coming off. It also just kind of helps everything to look really smooth. So primer helps. I love the Paint Pot by MAC in the shade Laying Low. This is one of the ones that I use often. Urban Decay makes a great one. Like really any primer that works for your skin type, and really because you could either be really dry or really oily. Some people like to use concealer. I find that for me concealer doesn't work. It just kind of breaks up. The other thing you want to do, depending on the kind of look that you're going for, is have a variety of brushes. And by variety, I don't mean a ton. I mean brushes that serve different purposes. For example, this flat shader brush by Bodyography does a beautiful job at applying color. So it allows you to pat the color and build it up. And you can also bring whatever shadow you're using to your lower lash line. And then of course you need a blending brush. So you have a natural hair brush like this. This is a MAC 224, and this is before they went synthetic. And this brush is really going to help blend and diffuse your product. And you see how it's nicely fluffy and open. That's really going to help disperse the product. But because of its size, it can also remove some of the shadow placement. You have the option of doing something like this. This is a dual fiber brush, and this is also a MAC brush. This one is 286. So this basically is very similar to this. The only difference is you can use this with cream products. So if you want to use like a cream shadow versus a powder, this would be your option versus this. And the last brush that you want is something small like this. And really you don't need it if you have a very flat brush. Otherwise you would use this to define your lower lash line or do detail work. So for today we're going to be using the Lion King Luminous Air and Sir John palette. This is called Can't Wait to Be Queen, and we're really going to focus on these shades here. I'm going to start with a fluffy brush like this, and I'm going to take Safari Khaki, which is this shade down here, and I'm going to use this to apply all over my lid. The reason why I'm doing this is because I've primed my lids already, so I want to make sure that my primer is set and that my eye is ready to have shadows applied to it. If you don't set your primer, what can happen is that your shadows will look patchy, will skip, so you want to make sure that whatever you apply is nice and set. This shade I really like because it already just kind of adds a really soft brown, like a mustardy brown shade to my lid, and that in itself just looks really pretty. All right, so I'm going to go in with the shade African Clay, which is this shade here, and I'm going to go in with my flat shader brush. So I'm going to pick up the product, really work that pigment into the brush, tap off the excess, and then I'm going to press this shadow onto the lid. And what I'm doing is I am pressing and pulling, and that's going to help drag the pigment across the lid. If I start doing windshield wiper motions or even circular motions, I'm going to move the color and it'll look really patchy and it'll remove the product. So all I'm doing is pressing and pulling, press and pull, press and pull. And then once you do this enough, it'll just be really easy for you. It won't feel like you're having to press and pull, press and pull. I'm going to take my 224 and I'm going to blend this. So because we already had the Safari Khaki on the lid, that just really helped prepare my lid for another color. So if you guys look already, the blending of the African Clay, which is the darker shade all over the lid, is much easier and it looks nicer than if I had just gone in with African Clay. So layering your shades really does help the gradient look of your shadows. And all I'm doing again is just pushing and pulling. And the reason why I'm doing that is because every time I blend, this brush can shear out some of the pigment. This looks really pretty. I'm just gonna, again, make sure that everything looks nice and even. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do the other eye. Alright guys, and as you see, we have a very quick and easy soft smoky eye. Now, if I'm going to smoke out my lower lash line, you want to do the same thing that you did to the top. So you can start off with Safari Khaki, which is this lighter shade, and then go in with your African Clay. In this case, I already have a little something under my lash line, so I'm just going to go in with African Clay, and I'm just going to run this shade on the lower lash line, and I'm showing you guys how to do it with the flat shader brush. But like I said, you can have something that is specifically geared to detail work, and I'm going to take this and do the same thing. This side, this brush gives you more control. This looks a little bit messier. I kind of prefer that, so I'm just going to take this and blend that out just to keep it looking the same. The other thing I like to do is I like to take my corners and then I like to merge that lower lash line with the top. Now I'm going to take the small detail brush. I'm going to take Landscape, which is this shade here, and I'm going to use that to highlight the inner corner. I love this brush specifically for this because it's so small that it allows you to control the placement. Sometimes, depending on whether you're using your finger or a fluffy brush, your inner corner highlight can look a little messy and unintentional, where if you have something small that's precise, you can build and place the color where you want it. So I'm gonna go back with the same brush. I'm gonna pick up Landscape again, and I'm going to use that right under the brow and then bring it back. This is a little darker than what I wanted, but it still looks really pretty because we're of the tones that we use on our eye. Alright guys, now to finish this look, I'm going to take a liner. This is Milk Cosmetics in the shade CEO, and I'm going to fill in my top lash line and my bottom lash line, and this is going to add just a little bit more contrast to this look. So I'm going to lift. I always feel super uncomfortable doing the inner corner. It just doesn't feel nice. And I'm going to do the bottom. Now you guys can see that this eye just looks slightly more defined than this eye, and we're going to go ahead and do this eye and finish this eye look up. Alright guys, so this is what your final eye should look like. As you guys can see, the color is very much concentrated in the lower area of your eye, and then it diffuses into a lighter brown, so there's a gradient effect. I love this look. I think it's very easy. I think you can wear it daytime or nighttime. This strategy, the techniques that I showed you guys, you can use with any color pairing. You don't need to just stick to browns. I just figured that brown was the easiest way to show you guys, and I just figured that it's easy to start with a brown, then working your way into a black. Black is a little harder, and I will definitely have a video on a black smoky eye, because while it's not as popular as it was at one point, people still, you know, find that a black smoky eye is just classic. So I hope you guys found this helpful and that you've learned something. Let me know down below if you have any questions, or if any of you guys have suggestions on how to improve or build on this. I think that we should all collaborate as a community, and if you have any tips, I'm sure we would all appreciate you sharing them. Thank you guys so much for sticking around and watching this tutorial. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and leave any comments down below letting me know what the next back to basics should be. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.